In the world of Islamic scholarship, many learned Muslim men have claimed that Mecca, the most holy city of Islam, is mentioned in the Bible. And these Muslim scholars cite the 84th chapter of the Book of Psalms, located in the Old Testament, as the basis for their argument. For in Psalms chapter 84 verse 6 it is written, quote, "Who, passing through the Valley of Baka, make it a well, the rain also filleth the pools," unquote. Now the key word in this biblical verse is Baka, which when translated from the original Hebrew into English means weeping. However, the actual meaning of the Arabic word Mecca may not in fact mean weeping, yet this has not deterred the scholars of Islam from turning to the Qur'an in order to substantiate their claims. For in the third surah of the Qur'an, titled Al-Imran, verse 96, it is explained as saying, quote, "Indeed, the first house of worship established for mankind was at Mecca, blessed and a guidance for the worlds," unquote. Now the exact phonetic form for Mecca in the Quran in Surah 3 verse 96 is pronounced as Baka, with a B and not with an M. But this slight linguistic deviation is explained away by the Muslim scholars as they point out how during the time of Muhammad, in the southern half of the Arabian Peninsula, the B and the M, in the dialect of the Arabic spoken then and there, were interchangeable. Thus, these aggravating factors spark confidence in the hearts of the Muslims as to the legitimacy of the Quran as the authoritative word of God and to the religion of Islam as the only genuine faith. That being said, the following presentation will not be an attempt to defend or support Islam, but rather it will serve as an objective study into Islamic claims, function as an intellectual exercise into linguistics, and most importantly, it will be guided by an Orthodox Christian understanding of the Scriptures. Now, in the various translations of the Hebrew Bible into English, it is interesting to note that the Hebrew word Baka, written in Psalms chapter 84 verse 6, is left untranslated into its English counterpart. However, as we have already discussed, the Hebrew word Baka, or Baka, is commonly translated into English as weeping. Furthermore, there are other instances in the Old Testament where Baka is used, but not all translations associate it with the English equivalent of weeping. For example, in 2 Samuel chapter 5 verses 23 through 24, the original Hebrew does use weeping to describe a certain type of tree. However, in the King James Version, these weeping trees are translated as mulberry trees, and in the New International Version, they are referred to as balsam trees. In 1 Chronicles chapter 14 verses 13 through 16, we encounter baka trees again, and similarly, the original Hebrew translates them as weeping trees. However, the King James Version translates them as mulberry trees, and the New International Version as balsam trees. Interestingly, in the Greek Septuagint, the trees mentioned in 1 Chronicles are referred to as pear trees, even though the Septuagint uses the word weeping in 2 Samuel, just like the original Hebrew. But to further expand upon the significance of the Valley of Baka, its relationship with weeping, and how it ties into the territory of Mecca, we must first examine the properties of the Baka or balsam tree. Regarding the Valley of Baka, mentioned in Psalms chapter 84 verse 6, it is widely accepted that this valley is associated with weeping. However, due to the poetic language used in the Psalms, it is possible that this valley of weeping carries with it a metaphorical or figurative meaning and may not specifically refer to a physical location. Nevertheless, in eastern Lebanon, which shares a border with the Holy Land, there is a fertile agricultural region known as the Bekaa Valley. While the Arabic word Beka sounds similar to the Hebrew word Baka, we cannot definitively claim that the Bekaa Valley in Lebanon is synonymous with the Valley of Baka mentioned in the Bible. On the other hand, it is certain that the balsam tree grows in and is native to the region of Israel-Palestine. Historical records and accounts suggest that the balsam tree may have also grown in the areas surrounding Mecca at some point in history. The balsam tree is renowned for producing a resin with aromatic and medicinal properties and is referred to as the balm of Gilead in the book of Jeremiah chapter 8 verse 22. This resin was also a highly valued commodity in ancient times. Considering the balsam tree's ability to emit a moist substance, it is appropriately categorized as a weeping tree, and because of this it can also be easily understood why the Valley of Beka or Balsam means the place of weeping. As we have already established, the holy Muslim city of Mecca is referenced in the Quran in Surah Al-Imran. Additionally, the name Mecca is also mentioned in the 48th surah of the Quran, titled Al-Fath, in verse 24. Now what is important for English-speaking people to know is that the word Mecca has an official English spelling used by the government of Saudi Arabia, which differs from how it is commonly spelled by non-Muslim Westerners. Instead of spelling it as Mecca, Mecca, The proper English transliteration is spelled as M-A-K-K-A-H, Makkah, which is a more accurate pronunciation derived from the original Arabic. By considering this pronunciation, it becomes more evident why Muslims attribute the Hebrew term Baka as the equivalent to the Arabic Mecca, thus supporting the Islamic claim that Mecca, or Makkah, is indeed mentioned in the Holy Bible. It is also interesting to note the phonetic similarity between the Hebrew name Micah, a prophet in the Old Testament, and the Arabic name Mecca. Although Micah and Mecca are not the exact match, their similarity demonstrates the linguistic familiarity held between the Hebrew of the Bible and the Arabic of the Qur'an. Based on the available information, it is reasonable to interpret the biblical term Valley of Baka as the Valley of Weeping. However, there are two possible interpretations to consider. On the one hand, the Valley of Weeping may have allegorical significance. On the other hand, Baka in the Bible could be synonymous with the Muslim city of Mecca. In the Bible, when it describes people passing through the Valley of Baka, Muslims may interpret this as pilgrims on Hajj walking around the Kaaba, the holiest structure in Islam. Biblically speaking, the psalmist uses the Valley of Baka as a symbolic representation of individuals who navigate a difficult and sorrowful path in life. Consequently, Muslims associate the name of this valley with a literal indication of a dry and arid region, similar to the conditions found in and surrounding Mecca. Consequently, it is up to those seeking the truth to determine whether the Arabic word Mecca is indeed mentioned in the Bible, or if the Hebrew word Baka is merely a linguistic coincidence when compared to other similar sounding words and phrases found within the Semitic languages of Hebrew and Arabic. This is the leap of faith.